Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. Last week we finished off the Orange Ocean, now we're in the game's final world, the Rainbow Resort. And I love this song, it's so relaxing. Now, because this is the last world, I think this is the best time for me to go over some of the bonus stuff in the game, because you technically are done the game once you 100%ed it and gotten every switch, yes, but there's also some extra modes that I'm not going to be showing off that are worth bringing up, as well as the level 3 times for the quick draw minigame, but I'll talk about that eventually. First off, though, we want to get this beam power up because we can destroy these blue blocks, and we need to do that in order to get the switch in this particular level. In fact, I will say this is probably one of the more annoying switches to get in the game, just because it's not immediately obvious, just because I like to keep on going so much, but as you just saw right there, I slid. There are ice physics in this stage, and they are annoying, especially with these 3 Wild Ds, and this is one of those rooms that will actually respawn enemies, which makes it even more annoying. But we want the beam ability in order to destroy the blue blocks that are on the top of the screen right now, because that's where the switch is. Now, in terms of the bonus modes for this game, they unlock in spaces, sort of. For beating the game the first time, you get access to, I think, the boss rush mode, which is pretty self-explanatory. You go through every single boss fight one by one without any powers or healing items. It's surprisingly tough, but it's also very simple because it's a Kirby game, boss rush. There's also extra mode, which you get for beating the game 100%. It's basically just a hard mode. You only have 3 health, and bosses have more health, and I think the Peppy Tonics only restore 1 HP total. In a similar vein, for clearing extra mode, I think it doesn't have to be 100%, I think it's just beating it. You get Meta Nightmare, a mode that became a bit of a running theme in the games, where you basically get to play the game as Meta Knight. He only has 3 health and he can't use copy powers, however, he's basically in a permanent, slightly more powerful sword power-up state. He can light fuses with his sword, he has the standard slashes, the sliding attack, the running attack, the jump attack, so on and so forth. I think he also has a unique sword attack where he can slash directly above himself. But notable, that campaign also ends a little bit earlier, for reasons I'll go over eventually. It's a fun mode, but I don't think it's worth playing the game again to get it. Because it doesn't have as much going for it as it would in later games, like, say, Superstar Ultra or so on and so forth. Which, in a lot of ways, kind of describes the game on a whole, because this is a good game, but the other games just do things a lot better from here on, really. I guess it could be a good introductory Kirby game, but I'll talk more about that later. Rainbow Resort is a rather unique world in that its levels aren't exactly the same. I'm not sure how to explain this without outright stating what goes on, accidentally spoiling that like 10 minutes ahead of time. But this level's layout is very different. For instance, starting off, level 2. There's a door there, but there's a hidden door up here. Notice how we have DeDeDe's theme from the first Kirby game playing. World 7-2 is a boss rush stage. If you take the gate, you go through 4 bosses. If you take the door, you go through 6, I believe. The first floor on the hard version, which is what I'm on right now, was a green bonkers. It's pretty self-explanatory. On the standard floor, it's just a Poppy Bro Senior. Harder second floor is an elephant. Harder second floor is I think Mr. TikTok or whatever, the clock mini boss. Harder third floor is going to be a red Bugsy. The standard red third floor is a Freezy. The harder fourth floor is going to be a slightly more powerful Flame Lion. The standard 4th floor is a Bonkers. The standard 5th floor is an Elephant, and the standard 6th floor is another Bugsy. And then after that, there's a 7th floor, which is another Lion. So you're going for a harder but shorter range just by going up on the upper path, and I prefer to do that because it just takes less time. Getting Hammer from Bonkers is recommendable just because the damage it can do is pretty absurd. And for clearing it, we get 5 extra lives. I will take that very much. Both doors lead out to here, though. And then they give us one final reward for clearing that stage no matter what, because it's pretty inevitable that you're probably going to exit this level at least once with low health. So they put a Maximator there really kindly. Thank you, game developers. That's pretty nice of you. That's not the only pretty unique level in this stage, world, but we'll get more into those as we come across them. Because right now, if I recall, World 7-3 is pretty straightforward. Yes, but this is also a pretty annoying level in its own right for a different reason. I'll get more into that later, but I also think this might be the first appearance of the sleep enemies in the actual stages. Again, I think sleep doesn't do anything in this game. Some games it'll restore some HP, or even, I think, one case make you invincible to one type of attack. But on the whole, it's very useless. Also, I've never been able to get through this room without getting hit. There's a lot going on here. These Bronto birds, or whatever they're called, are especially hard to dodge. So are the Sir Kibbles. I don't know what it is about Kirby enemy names, but I've always just been able to remember them to an extent almost better than some Mario names. I say that intentionally, some of them. Namely, the ones that give you power-ups, especially the ones that appear in every game I can remember. Others, not so much. Now, I'm trying to remember, is this the stage I was actually thinking it was earlier, or am I thinking of the next stage? This is, ironically enough, the one stage that actually has a very common theme throughout. We always have this kind of spacey background with the floating ice platforms, more or less, constantly throughout the entire world. I don't find that one up worth going for. I ain't dealing with those shotzos. World 7, on the whole, honestly feels a bit easier in some ways compared to even the prior stages, because it feels like this levels might even be shorter. Which is weird to think about for this game in particular, but it's how it feels. Mind you, the levels in this game are short no matter what you do, but in this level in particular, maybe just because it's the final world and they wanted to make the ending more climactic, most of the time in the world is going to be spent with that. Also, this is the one time you actually get to see the real good use that Ball can get out of me if I don't get hit. The big problem with Ball and similar abilities throughout the Kirby series is that it leaves you really open to attack, and that's not so good. I don't know why, but this room in particular always reminded me of the original Kirby game, and I can't exactly tell why, aside from maybe the fact it looks like with the outer walls that are being framed in a 4:3 ratio. Whereas I don't think the Game Boy Advance was 16:9 in ratio, but it was definitely not 4:3. Burning is also kind of annoying here for its own right, because something I've never liked too much about the burning power-up is that, I forget if it's in this game, but at least one of the games, you didn't have complete fluid control over it in terms of when you could stop it. One game at least, you were stuck wherever the hell you were going with it, and that's no good. I don't know how I didn't get hit there. Maybe the crash enemy also only causes an earthquake on the surfaces that you're touching. That could make sense, but at the end of the day, I just don't know. They're a very confusing enemy to me. I don't really get the point in this room of having the little shortcut blocks around, because it's not like they really matter too much to begin with. Mind you, you could also just say, why argue with a shortcut at all? I'm like, hey, for the people who wanted to take it, I suppose, but when there's only one good choice there, why have it there to begin with, right? Alright, 6-5 is the world, 7-5 was the level I was thinking of earlier, my apologies. These last two standard levels kind of blend together in my head, and there is one level after this, but this is the last standard level, so to speak. Though this level in particular also has potentially the most annoying switch to get in the game. Also a wheelie, because I guess they realized, wait, we forgot to put a wheelie in the boss rush stage. Whoops. Actually, I wonder if there was a reason for that, like, development-wise in Adventure. Maybe they couldn't fit too many boss rooms within one room, too many boss entities within a level, otherwise the game would crash or something. I could see that being a potential reason. I don't know why they put the little wheelie in the corner, though, because I don't think you can ever fight that thing. Visual distraction, maybe? Either way, this is the room you want to be careful in, because we need to get a power-up in this room and use it at the end of it. Namely, there's going to be a couple of burning enemies. You want to grab one of them. and not get completely face-panted. That's a new one. Face planted by them. Now, the reason that the switch in this level is particularly annoying is that compared to the other switches that require a fire type ability for obvious reasons, this has easily the strictest time limit. And when I mean strict, I mean strict. I'm gonna be jump cutting past a good amount of the tries because I think I was at this next switch for like 2 minutes trying to get it. Because what you need to do is light this fuse while also getting to that cannon there. As you can see, that's a very short fuse. Thankfully, they put a burning enemy here in case you fail. What you need to do, actually, is not jet from all the way across like that. We need to jet from right next to the rope like so, and then just rock it another time, and then walk all the way. I always forget I have to do it like that for a few moments, purely because of one reason. I always forget the tail end of the burning sprite also counts as a fire attack. I don't know why, it's clearly fire, but I just always forget to use it for that purpose. And now we're on to the final level of the game. And, it's a bit of a strange one to me. Because we're back at Kirby's Dreamland 1, with the music even. Now, this is cool for the remake, because this is nice and cute little look back at the original game. However, this was also in Kirby's Adventure on the NES, which, might I remind you, came out in 1993, versus Kirby's Dreamland 1991, I want to say? No, 92, even. Yeah, a year prior. Why? That's just bizarre. I mean, I like this level, don't get me wrong, it's just a nice little romp through the aesthetics of the original game, which, now that I think about it, actually kind of match with this game's aesthetics in a way. But there's not even really anything dangerous going on here. In fact, it's about as easy as the entirety of Dreamland 1. They put a lot of items here to make things easier for you, and while you can get powers, there's no real interest in this stage. Mostly. There is actually one more thing I just remembered about it that is kind of cool, but we'll get into that in a moment. I do notice, though, that compared to the other levels in the game, they try to keep the enemies in these levels more to the ones in Dreamland 1 that didn't give you any powers, and that's kind of cute. But again, I wonder why. And if you're gonna go all the way with the black and white color palette, why not have alternate sprites for Kirby and everyone that makes them black and white? At least in the remake, at the same time, though, I can imagine that being kind of noticeably jarring in the animation differences. Because I'm not even looking at, like, if you look there, the star blocks from Dreamland 1 even still have that little gray portion around the sprite. That they don't have anywhere else in the game. So, yeah, maybe just some animation disparity issues. Or they just realized it would be stupid to make entirely new sprites when you have these ones that are perfectly fine, right? I like this level, but I have to wonder the point of it. However, we don't want to just outright enter the exit, because there is one last switch that I forgot about. Whoops. And it's actually kind of an important one to hit, because that unlocks that star door. And I don't think I've talked about what the star doors do the entire LP. And well, I'm going to be using that one in a moment, so I might as well now. The star doors, there's one of them in every world, are quick travel, basically. You use one, you enter one, and you'll enter another room that's filled with 7 stars. One for each world. You use it, and you'll just be warped to that numbered star. For instance, right there is the final boss. However, before we go in there, I want to use the world select to go back to Butter Building. Why? Because I want the high jump ability. And that's a bit odd, because I've said before that high jump isn't the most useful ability in levels, but against boss fights, I think I mentioned even, it's a surprisingly good power because of the invincibility frames it gives you. And I want that for the final boss fight. So let's get that. Or we could accidentally swallow the cutter star again. Get that. And now let's head back to Rainbow Resort. Alright, it's time to face off with DeDeDe, and a new song for the remake, The Fountain of Dreams. I absolutely love this song. It's a remix of Gourmet Race from Superstar, And I absolutely love it. My favorite version of this theme is probably still the Smashing Live, or whatever it was called, the live soundtrack CD for Melee. I love this song. DeDeDe has some new tricks up his sleeve because he actually has his hammer this time around. He'll still inhale you and try to spit you out and such, and even do his body slam. But his primary attack is to now try and swing his hammer like bonkers. In fact, it's almost the exact same attack. He can also just try to jump on you outright, but on the whole, with super jump, especially if you just press the B button to stop your jump, he is a very easy boss. Suck it, DeDeDe. This is not the last time Kirby's going to unleash the true villain. Keep count. It's ridiculous. Either way, final boss of the game is this weird power orb, otherwise known as NME, or Nightmare. What its name is depends on where you read it. I think the E might actually be mostly from the anime due to Nightmare Enterprises. And it's our usual shoot-'em-up section for a Kirby game. Just spam the B button and you should win. Keep an eye out for the stars. They can be kind of hard to see, especially when we get down to this area of the screen. But on the whole, pretty easy. The Star Rod, notably, though, does have its own pause menu text that says, "This suddenly appeared at the Fountain of Dreams. Use it in your final battle against the Nightmares." Okay. On the whole, though, this is probably one of the easier shoot-'em-up sections in the series. And the time has come to fight Nightmare's true form, and I absolutely love this thing's design. He was actually the main villain in the anime. He is going to be teleporting all over the place, doing a couple attacks, generally sweeping across at the top or the bottom of the screen, and ultimately, when he reaches any given side, firing off a couple of those stars, this time colored white instead of a blue. The way we damage him is that when he opens his cape for any reason, and he shows a little tornado core, shoot the Star Rod at it. I think you can also just do the little jump slash attack that happens automatically to damage him, but I think the projectile attack might do more damage. Don't quote me on that, though. I used to have a lot of trouble with this boss, but honestly, now it's pretty easy. Although a notable little detail, we're on the moon right now, and in the original NES game, this did look more like a moon, to the point where it actually became the final boss arena once again, once we get to a certain portion of Superstar. Despite having very good music and a pretty intimidating design, though, Nightmare is no real issue. Gotta say, though, that's one hell of a Bruce Campbell chin. Also, admittedly, this arena kind of messes with me, because the moving just messes my brain. It feels like we should be moving it like on an auto-scroller when we're not. It's just weird. No, now the moon's exploding. Great. Good job, Kirby. And that's anticlimactic timing. Our hero Kirby has fought bravely to recover the Star Rod. But King DeDeDe didn't mean any harm. He certainly wasn't trying to harm the Fountain of Dreams. It all began when the Nightmares appeared in the fountain. The Nightmares rode the currents of the Fountain of Dreams, wreaking havoc and tormenting the residents of Dreamland. When King DeDeDe hid the Star Rod, the power source of the Fountain of Dreams, he was actually hiding it safely away from the Nightmares. Borrowing King DeDeDe's power, Kirby managed to defeat the Nightmares. Now that the Star Rod has returned to the fountain, everyone's dreams will return. So flip up your pillow and get ready for a good night's sleep. And that's Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. A nostalgic favorite of mine, to be sure, but admittedly, one of the more bare Kirby games by modern standards, even if it is because that mostly comes down to it just being a remake of an NES game. They couldn't change too much to it without making it seem like an entirely new Kirby adventure. And that's admittedly an issue I can have with a lot of remakes, especially if the game is old enough. If they change too much, it's unrecognizable. And the way I prefer my remakes to be done is how Samus Returns did it and such, where they change a good amount to the point where it's a new game but still recognizably the original. The Resident Evil remake did a really good job in that regard as well. And I think this game plays it a bit too safe in that regard, but I completely understand why they did that, especially because it's also Kirby, a series that's not too complicated to begin with. If you want to play this, it's on the Game Boy Advance, and I believe it's on the 3DS and Wii U Virtual Console stuff. Namely the Wii U over the 3DS. And I do recommend it. It's not my favorite Kirby game, but it is one I have a lot of memories of. My personal favorite Kirby game is probably still... I really do like Superstar Ultra, but I also really, really like Amazing Mirror. Oh, hi, Bill. In terms of what I'm probably going to do next for the Kirby series, I'm probably going to go to Superstar, but I'm still considering whether or not I should do Ultra or the original. I'm leaning towards Ultra just because I think it's mechanically better, and it's just better laid out, plus it has the extra stuff. But I am tempted for the original for different reasons. And as for what's up next in general, I'm thinking another platformer before we go to our next RPG adventure, because it's about time that we make a return to a certain franchise, but I want to do one or two more games before we get to that. And with that, by the way, we also have access to more stuff on the menu, namely the extra mode, which is the hard mode. I think you have access to the minigame challenges as well, and since I forgot to mention it earlier, you can access at this point easily the last level of Quick Draw. And level 3 Quick Draw's times are absurdly strict. Oh, and now we have access to boss endurance, yeah. The level 3 for Quick Draw is 18 hundredths of a second for Waddle Doo, 14 for Wheelie, 12 for Kawasaki, 11 for DeDeDe, and a measly 10 hundredths of a second for Meta Knight. I have never beaten level 3. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, have a great night, take care, and I'll see you guys next Let's Play, whatever that may be. See you guys then.